everyone, Binati Sheet here. And in this particular video, I thought I'll think out loud. And the reason why I am thinking out loud is because a lot of people have this question like how do you do these weird articles or whatever. And the trick to that is exploring new information and reading all sorts of weird things. So essentially, I do geopolitical articles as well. Of course, not a lot of that is paid work. That is more like work of passion. But maybe someday. And in that, I try to explore the history angle a lot because see, the thing about geopolitics that a lot of us forget is history is very difficult to overcome. We are not talking about indoctrinated history like stuff that we are taught at home from a very young age, all of that. No, I'm talking about actual history, like history of what makes us, right? Like the sapien from India, let's say, which is me. What makes me, that is the history that I'm talking about. So that is very difficult to overcome, and no matter how much we try to fight it, it's going to rear its head at some point, at some place. And like, we can make the shocked and surprised Pikachu face, but like, it's a very common phenomena. Almost each and every one of us are confronted by the history of our pasts, right? Which is a very weird statement, like history is past, but I'm thinking out loud. So this is part of the game of thinking out loud, which is you make stupid mistakes. Coming to the next point, which is about literature, something else I love a lot. So we cannot talk about literature without mentioning the greats, right? Shakespeare, uh, or Arthur Conan Doyle, all of that, all the good stuff. And essentially, what I think is when I compare geopolitics work, all the geopolitical work that I do regarding history, and then I compare literature, and I'm like, holy shit, literature kind of, how do I say, numbs the pain of history. And each and every single time, like no exceptions, this is what I found. So you might think that Bram Stoker's 18th century novel Dracula was like something that actually existed, or probably something that was conjured up in the imaginations of a mind loaded with hallucinogens, which is something that used to be a case. Like, people did a lot of drugs back then. So no, that wasn't the case actually. Like, if you know about the war, so to speak, that went across Europe, where European empires got together, consolidated together under the Roman Catholic Church to kind of oust the Ottoman Empire from invading Europe, right? And there was this general during that, which is who was Vlad III, also referred to as Vlad of Tepes, also referred to as Vlad the Impaler, also referred to as Vlad the Third, son of Dracul. Dracul was local language translation of Dracul was dragon, right? And he essentially, his father Vlad too, he was considered to be a dragon, mighty, very vicious, all of that. And this one grew up under the tutelage of his father, was imprisoned and all of that, like terrible childhood, all like literally terrible childhood. So the kind of conditioning he grew up in led to him butchering more than 50,000 people. And when I say butcher, I mean he used to impale them such that they wouldn't die on the spot, but they would, like, die gradually. And there was no way to rescue these people that he impaled. So this was a real person who, brutal as he was a key element of the Ottoman Empire not dominating the European landmass, right? And then stories about his brutality became very popular. Some we can find evidence about, some we can't. He was a cannibal, as in he used to eat human meat, which was something we have evidence to. He used to drink human blood, all of that. So, do you see the parallels to Vlad, son of Dracul, and Count Dracula? You do, right? He used to live in this gigantic dark castle, and the castle would always be surrounded by these impaled bodies of dead people. So this is gruesome, brutal history, which was fetishized and romanticized as a work of literature, which is a okay. See, you can take inspiration from anything and turn it into uh, something remarkable. But then what happens is the real history about that kind of pales in comparison, and then what you have is vampires that shine when sunlight falls on them. So, like, see the guy in history, then see the actual character that was created based on the guy in history, and see how vampires are represented now, right? And like, of course, Vlad the Third wasn't a vampire. Proof is he's dead now. If he was a vampire, he would be alive, or at least someone would have mentioned how they uh, used a wooden skewer to impale him to death or whatever. But no, he did die a natural death. So history kind of gets fetishized and kind of romanticized a lot in works of literature. And what happens is people start citing literature as historical fact. And what that does is, okay, so Antony and Cleopatra, right? Shakespeare wrote this amazing play about this amazing love story. And in that, a lot of Mark Antony's debauchery, a lot of Mark Antony's actual shady personality gets washed away. Like, the guy was as extravagant as they come. And most of the wars that happened under him post Caesar's death, which is another thing, right? So, when Caesar was kind of assassinated, not kind of, he was assassinated. Cicero, who was there at the place where it happened, mentions how he doesn't say et tu brute, he covers himself with his toga. He literally covers his face. Unlike what we know to be the Shakespearean version, which is et tu brute, he faces his death bravely and only dies when Brutus kind of hits the killing blow. Like, no, that is not what happened in history. What happened in history was a man who was trying to, you could say, consolidate power, was assassinated by people who also wanted to consolidate power. And we kind of wash over that when we talk about history. So I don't really know where I started off and came to Caesar. Ah, yes, Antony and Cleopatra. So, and Cleopatra, so Library of Alexandria, which used to be the best library in the world, uh, the granaries of Egypt, which were responsible for not only feeding Egypt, they also used to feed the mighty Roman Empire, right? And Romans used to have enough left over to trade with other people from the stuff they bought from Egypt. So all of this happened when Cleopatra kind of kills her brother husband and takes control. So all of this, the kind of stuff that Cleopatra had to go through to come to power, the kind of sexism she faced despite being the legit queen of Egypt, all of that, it's just brushed off, and she is seen as this woman that Mark Antony gives his life for. Like, amazing read, love Antony and Cleopatra, Shakespearean play, but then it kind of replaces the history with the masses, and I personally uh, feel really bad that people don't put in the effort to know the actual history behind these things. So that is what I try to do essentially with my articles. Like, I look into weird things. So I've been looking into Medusa, the Gorgon. It's been over 6 months now, and I keep finding more and more things about her which we don't even get to see, because Medusa is this lady with snake hair or whatever, and that's just sad. So yeah, let's make an effort to know history. My 10 minutes are up, so bye bye.